This is really the horrors of the internet personified. I remember this story from just maybe a month or so ago because I spent a good time on Twitter for sports. And there's kind of a community that's on there, and sports really likes Twitter. I think the platform just really works out for it. And all over the place was this story about this young hot co-ed at Ole Miss that had slept with her boyfriend's dad. And people were like, oh my gosh, well, how salacious is this? This is crazy. Could you imagine that? And then next thing you know, and everybody was talking about it. And Barstool Sports, which is really big on it, they had picked up on it. Some of their personalities were talking about it. So everybody on the sports Twitter sphere is having a communication about this. And then right here in South Florida, it started getting legs when Antonio Brown, who I told you he does the CTESPN.
Yes.
He was all over it. And then Pat McAfee, who was on ESPN, he referenced it without saying the actual name. Well, what happened was this girl kind of got caught up in it. And then after a couple hours of seeing the conversation going on about it, all of a sudden there's a name and there's photos. Well, the girl being blamed for this was 18-year-old Mary Kate Cornett, a college freshman at Ole Miss. And the rumor was she slept with her boyfriend, Evan Solis's father, banker Eric Solis. So they had her photo, his photo. Everybody's been named. And now people are like going, oh my gosh, of course she gets doxxed because you got everybody doing the investigation in this and everybody's so into it. And they get her phone number out there and everything. And then she starts getting messages about what a slut she is and how could she do something so terrible. And you guess what, Virginia? It was all fake.
She never slept with the dad?
Nope. Never happened.
Who created this?
Well, that's the question. What is the source of it? And it's so hard because when something like this gets picked up, and you've probably seen it, whatever your platform is, where it gains energy and momentum and everybody gets in on, they're like, oh, we're going to find out because, wow, how scandalous is this story that a girl would sleep with her boyfriend's dad? And, you know, it has the SEC tied into it, and there's supposed to be young, hot girls in the SEC, and Ole Miss is known for it. So everybody got all excited. And then, it was so crazy because for this girl, 18-year-old Mary Kate, she actually had to stop going to class, had to go to online classes, thought about transferring. Somebody actually made a swatting call that sent the SWAT team to her mother's house.
Oh.
And so it just, you know, gets out of control. And now she's done an interview with NBC, and she's talking about, you know, how this happened and how it affected her life.
Having the entire internet, half of the country hating you, and calling you disgusting things, telling you to kill yourself, telling you that you're a horrible person, that you deserve to die, that's a really hard thing for a girl to go through.
I mean, listen to this poor girl.
Oh, man.
In February, an online rumor went viral, claiming an Ole Miss sorority sister slept with her boyfriend's father. Then, someone attached Cornett's name and photo to it.
Do you know why the rumor started?
No clue. No clue. I had zero knowledge of this.
This disgusting rumor was a top trending topic on Twitter.
Within 2.5 hours. Later that night, around 7 p.m., I was #1 trending in the United States.
Wow. And not for the right reasons.
And it wasn't even true.
None of it was true. But I got to tell you, I was on Twitter that day, and I'm like, oh, my goodness. And it's one of those things where I tell you, I think a lot of times you get caught up in the story, and not many people stop to pause to be like, is there any truth to this whatsoever before I get fully invested in this?
On social media, I'd say most people don't stop and pause.
You're right.
Mm-hmm. And then look at what it has done to this girl.
Cornett's phone number was also shared online. She was overwhelmed with harassing texts and voicemails.
I was having thousands of calls come through, thousands of texts coming through, calling me a whore, calling me a slut, telling me I deserve to die.
All because of an internet rumor.
All because of an internet rumor that has zero truth to it. Zero.
Cornett says she could barely leave her dorm room, had to switch to online classes. Someone even sent police to her mother's house in a fake 911 call.
Wow. So the University of Mississippi now has called out Antonio Brown and Pat McAfee, saying, you know, even if you didn't mention her by name, you kind of fueled the embers of this. And I think that's tough. Pat McAfee's in an interesting place where this is a guy, if you don't know who he is, he was a kicker in the NFL, and he now does a lot of stuff with WWE, and he had his own YouTube show. And so, it was the Wild Wild West. And then ESPN brings him into traditional media, and they ask him to stop with so many F-bombs. They now drop those out, but they still say the S-bomb all the time. And because it's ESPN and it's cable, you can actually use that, and they figure it's, I guess, not enough to turn off their audience. And look, Pat McAfee's brought a lot to it, but these are the kind of things that you used to have with traditional media, where you had to be very careful, because when you have a big brand like NBC, ABC, and you've done anything to kind of fuel rumors that could ruin somebody's life, like this obviously has taken a hit to this poor 18-year-old girl's life.
For some people, that could drive them to a very dark place that would end really bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that is terrible for your mental health.
And she's so young.
Right.
Getting hate and weird stuff when you're older and you're able to process it is very different from getting it when you're 18.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. And so here she is trying to go through it, and now she's announced a GoFundMe to support victims of similar cyber attacks, because it is a growing thing. And now you're starting to see that a lot of the digital media players have audiences that eclipse the old traditional stuff, but they don't have the same rules and guidelines. And we haven't gotten into that massive lawsuit that has happened against say, Mr. Beast or somebody like that has a majority of their fame with a digital audience.
Well, we've been talking about that for a long time, how social media, the digital world, has been the wild, wild west for a long, long time. And eventually it's going to have to catch up, because you can't ruin people's lives like that.
It would be so nice if they could get some sort of forensic digital expert to look into this and figure out exactly who started it and actively pursue that person, sue that person. Because really, I mean, she needs to know. It sounds like it may have been somebody close to her. What if one of her friends did it and she has no idea there is a sniper amongst her friends?
Everyone's a suspect.
Yeah, and this is, the point that you could bring up. What do you do if you're like this girl and you don't want to become a victim and wind up like Mary-Kate Cornett?
Well, I applaud her for getting out there and fighting for her good name. If this isn't real, she's going out there and she's fighting the fight. And unfortunately, she didn't ask for this, but she's getting out there and she's doing the right thing, in my opinion.
And some people are saying, well, why didn't her boyfriend or the boyfriend's dad step up and say anything? I don't know that they didn't. The question is when something takes energy like this, you've seen how things go viral and how fast. Even if you're trying to get the truth out there, is that going to do anything to stop the momentum of people who love this salacious story of a hot girl in the SEC who slept with her boyfriend's dad?
Well, people ask stupid questions all the time on social media. And I know, why didn't you do it this way? Well, you don't know all the details. You have no idea what's going on.
Right.
Because you saw the story, you think you know.
And I don't think we're there yet on how you keep a false story that could ruin someone's life from going viral. I don't think we have that stop yet. There are no brakes on that. If it happens to you, I guess you just have to take it, right? And you notice how everyone's going to remember the day and all the names and the photos and all that stuff. How many people are actually going to get the retraction that it didn't happen?
Well, the retraction's going to get zero play.
Because it's not exciting. What's exciting is that initial story. And this is the problem with all these internet rumors and these viral things that go out there, is so many people have their lives ruined. And then the next thing you know, what are you going to do about it? How could you have stopped it? And then how can you repair your image for something you did not do?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. So I feel for this girl, and maybe a lesson to everybody that does use social media, that if you hear something there, try to learn to take that pause and be like, we need to wait to see if this is even true in the first place. And I'm sure they had a talking to Pat McAfee. And even though he didn't name her, he did reference it and kind of brought a little bit more fuel to that audience. Say, McAfee just mentioned it. Let's get in on this.
Right.
This is how we do. It's the KBJ Show.